Hello, this is Decoherent, and welcome back to the mucosal world of Torment Tides of Numenera. So, we were just stomping our way through the bloom here last time, and, this is kind of a meta complaint, but all RPGs kind of end up like this. You have, a wide variety of moral choices, leap into the mucus, throw somebody else into the mucus, talk to the mucus, whatever, but there's never an option to, turn on your heel and march smartly out of the scary alien monster, preferably through a door, and find a nice coffee shop and get a latte and a scone. I'm willing to bet that the Ninth World, although we only get glimpses of it, has not had a proper tea time in millennia. But, putting that aside, I did notice that I had kind of stacked up my ciphers a little bizarrely, and Rin was actually getting some pretty nasty debuffs from that. I just kind of shuffled these around randomly. I'll pick them out a little later. I just like making sure that she has kind of the more damage-orientated ones. Well, I see that's not what happened, but that's my plan, is to put kind of the nasty ciphers on her so that she has a function besides healing. Also, I need to start using some ciphers. I've used, 2 ciphers? Something like that? Not impressive. They specifically said that they want to make them nasty to carry around so that you don't turn into the too good to use thing, where you end up with 1,000 health kits and unlimited rocket ammo for the last guy, and even then you're like, what if I need one for the credits? So, we spoke to a really nifty construct that has been killing things for thousands and thousands of years that gave us a slightly different point of view on some of the battles that we had back in Saga's Cliffs. We met some slaves and heard some fairly unpleasant things about maws that now I'm significantly less excited about, because apparently we're going to need to poke our heads through one of those, if I remember our journal correctly. And we were just moving on to this area up here, and I see big legs here, and I already don't care for this area. The corpse of a gigantic insect lies here. On closer inspection, you see that it appears to be in the midst of getting absorbed into the wall. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? Usually when you see a gigantic insect getting absorbed by the walls, you go, let's see if I can find a neighborhood bakery. Anywho. Okay, so we've got our sign here. The Little Neelash Cave, we know we're going there. And to the trade post. That sounds vaguely inspiring. Is that?
Why not?
Huh. Caravan guard, Aneen. We've kind of learned not to poke at them. Hey, the lads and I just guard the wagon. Our employers are the true merchants over there. Okay. Sure. These things are really neat looking. So we've got Grizzler, another Vargellan merchant, and a human merchant. Just wanted to see their dialogue. I missed the first part of it. Well, okay. Let's start talking with the human, because, hey, as you approach, you see 2 well-dressed merchants in heated conversation with a wiry man who is wearing an assortment of odd-looking leathers and hides. Upon seeing you, the wiry fellow shoos the 2 merchants away and turns in your direction. Instead of feet, you notice he has 2 hand-like appendages fashioned from metal and synth. Indeed, both of his legs have been replaced by these artificial arms that appear remarkably flexible. Grizzler, looking for the trade post? The wiry man flashes a lopsided grin and jabs a thumb at the giant toothy jaw behind him. Used to be in there, till the bloom got hungry and ate it. At least I think that's what happened. Never can tell with this big old sack of guts we call home. Again, my home does not eat me. So the trade post was what, destroyed? No, it could be, but I'd guess it's still around. He squints towards a nearby wall of flesh, as expecting the trade post to make a sudden reappearance, then shrugs. No telling where, though. If I was you, I'd try to find a maw that would take me there. Ugh, I don't want to go on a maw. Ought to be one around here somewhere. The bloom never closes off a path for long, but finding it again, well, that's a whole different story. Name's Grizzler, by the way. Bloom guide, explorer, and scout. 3 times eaten by the bloom and still intact. Well, mostly. He wiggles the artificial fingers on one of his feet. So, these maws, can you tell me a little more about them? Because everything I've heard has been so uninspiring. Grizzler squints at you for a moment, as if trying to decide if he trusts you or not. Then he nods. Well, a maw's the door, you see. A living door. It's a connection between some place in the bloom and another place. That place might be right around the corner, or it might be in a whole different world. Maybe in a different time. It doesn't seem to matter much to the bloom. Only one rule with maws. You gotta feed them what they want, and they open. Trouble is, every maw wants something different. Might be an emotion, or a color, or the blood of one particular fella. Or if you're unlucky that day, might be your own 2 legs. Maws are stubborn, every one of them. Until you give them what they want, they'll stay shut. He lowers his voice. Unless you got a way to cut 'em open. Takes a special kind of weapon to do that, but the Bloom don't like it one bit. She'll remember a fella who cuts open her maws, and things won't go easy for that fella around here. Okay, so where would you suggest that I look for a maw? Grizzler purses his lips. Used to be I could answer that question easy enough. I'd tell you just where to find him and where they'd lead and what to feed him. But something's got the Bloom all riled up, and she's opening and closing maws however she likes. He shakes his head disapprovingly, as if talking about his own disobedient child. So is this a thing that most people get a feel for, or were they stable, or did you have something going on? So, if I was you, I'd try the darkest corners of this gut bag I could find. Dank and nasty places. That's where maws like to rip themselves into being. The slums are a good place to start. Little Neelish, Cheriton slum, foul little holes like that. Great. Just great. Cheriton slum, sorry. So, if I'm going to go hunting through the slums, can you give me a couple of pointers? Grizzler lets out a long puff of air, and you're fairly certain that his breath is the same color as the fetid smoke emitted by the Bloom itself. Certainly it smells near as bad. Well now, he says, rocking back on the heels of his hand-feets. From where we're right here, you can find your way to 3 of them. Little Neelish, where all them funny-looking mutants live. Kyrd's Slump, where people go to get their bodies hacked or healed. And the old slave block, he makes a sour face. Folks don't go there at all, unless they're Murdens. But Murdens don't really count as folk. Where people can go to get their bodies hacked and healed. That sounds extremely promising if you've got a friend who has demons in his head. So, what can you tell me about Little Neelish? Grizzler nods. First of all, that ain't so little. I'd guess it's bigger than the other slums by half. Used to be called something else before the mutants moved in, but nobody remembers the old name. See, the mutants got there through a maw. They used to come and go as they pleased, trading goods from here and there, making all manner of shins. Somebody should have warned them that maws are ornery beasts, and they never do the same thing for long. Sure enough, one day it up and closed, and all the mutants on this side got trapped in the Bloom. Been stuck there ever since. Funny thing about Little Neelish. Folks on the outside of the Bloom like to pitch their rubbish in there, straight into the nearest tube or sphincter. Oh, geez, don't do that with your trash, gentlemen. But no matter where they dump their trash, it all finds its way to Little Neelish. I don't know how or why. Guess that's just where the Bloom likes to keep it. He smiles fondly, and once again you get the sense that he's talking about a much-beloved child. I think that one of the maws took a sense of discretion, or at least proportion. So, how about Kierjan's Slump? Grizzler brightens. That's where I got fitted with these. He taps the metal and synth arms that double as his legs. Couple of nice fellas helped me out when the Bloom ate my legs. They were a little odd, I admit, and lacking in the social graces. Kept calling me by a number rather than my name. Nowadays, the slump is under the protection of a bunch of soldier types. The deserters, I hear, from some battle that never ends. Aha! Grizzler shakes his head. Imagine that, fighting in an endless battle. Should have thought that through before they signed up, that's what I say. I'd completely agree with you, friend. So, you had some ominous words to say about this old slave block? Used to be a prison for slaves back in the days of Chilo the Great. They carved it out of the Bloom flesh with saws that spat solid light and blades that weren't all there. Ooh! Folks say that's where Chilo was chained up, and that's where her legend was born. Wouldn't know it anymore. It's all feathers and filth in there now, ever since the Murdens moved in. They're a pack of dirty thieves, and if you get too close to one of them, your thoughts get all staticky. Makes it hard to do just about anything. I hear it's because they talk to each other with their minds, but I guess they can't do it quiet and polite. I want a lightsaber. Neat. Okay. So you said the Bloom is acting strangely. Do you know why? She's hungry for something, or someone. I can hear it in her voices. Just like when a maw wants to eat somebody, only this time it's the whole Bloom. This sort of thing used to scare me, it did. Probably still should. Again, sense of proportion. So, is this your wagon that's just kind of standing here? Yeah, you'd better ask these 2 fellas here, he nods to the well-dressed merchants. See, they were supposed to be heading for the Ascension by way of the old trade post, but then the Bloom decided to eat the trade post, and now they're stuck. Handy, we're going that way as well. I keep telling them to look on the bright side, at least they weren't inside the trade post when it got eaten. But they won't hear it. Never seen a couple of fellas so determined to be miserable. Grizzler squints suspiciously at the two merchants. Anyway, till they decide what to do next, we're staying put. And since they're paying my wage, I do what they tell me. Alright. Seems legit. Okay, I saw the quest log go by. I haven't looked at this recently. Yeah, find the Maw. Okay, we need to find Avignea. We need to find someone to fix his head. Oh, yeah, that's right. And we're looking for some people to push around. Okay. Let's talk to the Vergellan first. The two merchants turn towards you. One is a heavy-set human with a large head and a wide, bony face. The other is a particularly thin and sickly-looking Vergellan. Its head crest is decorated with symbols that are unknown to you. Both are dressed in rich clothing. I hope you weren't planning to visit the Ascension, friend, says the human, whose face is set in a permanent frown. The only road was in there. He gestures towards the massive jaw that's closed over the far end of the platform. Yeah, so what happened here? As we approach, the entrance grows teeth, says the emaciated Vergellan. Emaciated. It speaks with a strange, halting accent, as if the truth is not its native tongue. The teeth get big and turn into a great jaw. Down it comes, swift and cruel. All this happens fast, in the time it takes to walk 5 steps. The human grimaces. This bloom's good for 3 things, friend. Farting up smoke to burn our eyes, pissing foul water for us to drink, and eating whoever and whatever it likes. I've met the first 2. So that's where you were heading, huh? Where else? The Ascension has its own perils, but it's blessed with a bounty of useful things. Unlike this place, try getting anyone to pay for a hunk of quivering bloom flesh. He scowls and spits. We trade in crystals from Ascension Place. Good business there, bad business here. The Vergellan attempts to scowl and spit in the same manner as its friend, but it only manages to spray the front of its garment with a bluish fluid from its nose slit. So I'm trying to get to the Ascension. Is there anything you can tell me about it? A world made of crystal, like this. The Vergellan plucks a finger-sized gemstone from its pocket. It seems to quiver of its own accord, as if it's alive. All things in Ascension made of crystal. Living creatures, too. It is a cold and dark place. The sun is too small in the sky. We don't venture far from the gate, adds the human. Nobody does if they're smart. So what's your plan now? This Gristleman asks us to go with him into the depths of the bloom, seek out other mouths, jaws, maws that lead to the trade post. We are not stupid. We say no. The Vergellan twists its face into a deep frown in the remarkable imitation of its companion. Clearly it's been practicing. Okay, I am going to kiss the ass of these merchants just a little, because it's always a good idea to be on the good side of people that you're trading with. So let's just offer and say, hey, if I find another way, I'll come and tell you, for a price. The merchant raises a bushy eyebrow. That's very charitable of you, which makes me assume that you have some nefarious motive. But pay it no mind, I have a pessimistic nature. Don't worry, you're right to be suspicious of me, I expect payment. But I deal straight with people. So what do you think of this Gristleman over here? You mean Gristler? The human gives you a sour look. He brought us safely through the well-traveled courtyard and across the many meters of this platform. A gifted explorer indeed. Many speak well of the Gristleman, the Vergellan points out. They say the bloom likes him, if such a thing can be. Do you have anything to trade at the moment? Not yet. We offer salts and dyes and alchemor powders to our contact in the Ascension. It, whatever it is, absorbs what it likes and gives us crystalline artifacts in return. If we ever manage to return here, then I might have something to trade. You could try that flesh merchant on the next platform, he turns to his companion. What's his name again? Sunderman. His name is Sundermun. The Vergellan bobs its head each time it speaks the name. 2 men he is, but also 1. Oh, great. Alright. Good chat. Wow. Yep, that's, yeah. Uh-huh.
Fine.
That's a mouth, alright. Wow.
Doing begets learning, I guess.
Uh-huh. I'm extremely unimpressed with anything that has mouths like that. Seriously. Very, very unimpressed. Okay. Well. I guess let's continue on our way. Like, is there any particular reason it had to have human teeth? Seriously? That's so gross. Okay.
Fine.
In severe need of some praises, too, I may add. Oh, great. This is great. What is this? A blister of flesh protrudes from the ground, an irritated, angry pustule. It's almost entirely opaque, but you can see the faintest hints of movement within. Sure, let's stick my face up next to it. You study the movement within the cyst more closely, as if in response to your curiosity. The shadow of a hand claws at the interior and vanishes. Someone or something is trapped inside the cyst. Okay, let's touch it. You feel something pressing against your mind, a sharp presence like the thought of pain, thrusting its experiences into your imagination. As your fingers brush the flesh of the cyst, the memories come pouring in, flooding your thoughts with emotions of lives you've never lived, stories from countless lives lost in the bloom. You reach for a random memory in this sensory maelstrom, and its particulars become immediately shockingly clear. Please, you whisper, hands raised. Clean white dust, untouched by the taint of the bloom, cakes your slender fingers. I worked for years on this sculpture. I've molded it with beams and chisels, and with my bare hands when my tools ran dry. This is the only thing in my life that has meaning. Something in the stone is calling to me. It needs to be given shape. I know that, says the man who used to be your friend. I've seen what it's done to you. He holds the large hammer in his hand. His fists are shaking. You've changed. Ever since you brought this hunk of rock back from the other world, you've changed. It's not the art that compels you. There's life already in that thing, and it's using you to get out. He hefts the hammer. I'm here to stop it. Oh, this isn't a whole lot of context. So it's totally possible that you're getting gaslighted. But again, when someone who trusts you starts saying crazy things like this rock is possessing you, I don't know this guy. I'm just gonna get the hell out of the way. His shock is apparent, but he hides it quickly. He steps between you and the curved stone and swings his hammer. On the first strike, you swear you can hear a high-pitched shriek, but you tell yourself it's just the rock cracking. Another blow, and chips scatter in a spray of red and white. The shriek has subsided, but your mind is filled with a low and pained moan. He holds the hammer aloft for a final blow and brings it down with all his strength. Your statue explodes and its pieces crumble. He stands and moves to the side, and for a moment you see a pool of blood amidst the shattered pieces. The memory fades. You wake from the vision, your body shaking involuntarily from the experience. A brief moment later, and you are reoriented in your own flesh. You find yourself once again standing before the massive cyst in the bloom. You kept your host safe, but you sense that wasn't what was needed here. This vision, and the others contained within the cyst fibers, are a lock of sorts. To open it, you'll need to suffer. You'll need to become prey. You kept your host safe. Oh, that was the person whose memory I was in. Oh, thinking about this whole, like, being back and forth between minds, I was thinking about the whole changing God thing lurking around in our brain, right? This should have actually been obvious from the beginning. So if the resonance chamber was going to nuke all the other cast-offs, but we're the ones who landed there and we're apparently supposed to fix it, that strongly suggests that we are the one that's got the changing God in our head. Because otherwise it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to let some cast-off jump in the thing and nuke you, right? Okay, anyway. You'll need to become prey. Is this really something I feel like doing? This place is so gross. Seriously, guys. Okay, let's poke at it again. You steel yourself for another memory of pain and reach out to touch the cyst again. Again, the unbidden memories spring in your mind, and you lose yourself among them until you reach out and seize one. You gaze through the faint shimmer and ripple of the force field, down the silent red-veined tunnel into the pulsating black. It looks empty. You know it is now. You feel the eyes on you, the hungry eyes. But you feel no fear. You feel emptiness within you, under a scab that you want to pick. Well, let's take a look at this emptiness. You remember her laughing face. You remember her closing for a kiss, the tentacles of her hair writhing around the back of your head, pulling you in for a kiss. Oh yeah, of course. You remember her delighted laughter when you told her you'd found a lost settlement at the end of a quiet tunnel in the bloom, untouched by scavengers, a fortune laying on shelves and in neat crates. You remember leading her by the hand, and the pain rises. Your hands stroke the force field's controls. Alright, let's keep digging through it. You don't want to remember. You don't, but you go deeper anyway. You've installed the shield to protect your find from the other explorers, but when you fled the ruins and the shrieking things beneath, it was the shield that saved you. You, and not her. You saw them fall on her 10 steps from safety, pale claws, blood-painted, screams from beneath the seething pile. So much blood, and she never stopped screaming. Finally, you raised the shield, and only then did silence fall. You look at your hand, hovering over the shield controls. For all you know, she could still be screaming down there in the ruins, and it's your fault. The life you were going to build together is gone, erased. You just have one more thing to do. Your hand slides across the control, and you deactivate the screens. Silence follows. She's not still screaming. You feel a moment's relief. The countless nightmares lied to you after all. You take a single step into the dark, and another, and then they swarm up the tunnel and fall on you, biting and clawing and chewing and shrieking. After endless, endless agony, blackness claims you. Youch! You return to your own mind with the death of your host, knowing that what you saw, what you felt, was true. The life you lived was full, rich, and ended here in the bloom. Your host's remaining moments were saturated with pain. Your muscles still twitch with the memory of agony, and your suffering bleeds into the cyst, loosening its fleshy fibers. It appears that the bloom has sealed something within this cyst, and your agony is the key that will set it loose. The only reason I'm carrying through with this is I'm really unhappy with the bloom in general, and I sort of feel like working against its purposes is going to be beneficial. Not just to how I sleep at night, but... Okay, well, let's touch it again. A world of senses explodes into your minds. You know instantly that you are in an abandoned cavity deep in the bloom. You hear moisture beating on the threaded veins over your head, and the chittering of other creatures that share this place with you. Your sight is limited and blurry, but a profusion of colors explode across your vision, and you associate each with a smell. And the smell, it's a warring kaleidoscope of rich inputs that instantly categorize themselves in your mind. Food, fetid warmth, family, and shelter lie ahead, beneath the base of a thick, outflung tentacle. It is a burrow opening, just the right size for your tiny body. The globules of bloom flesh in your cheeks will sustain your brood for days, but then the wind shifts, and a sharp scent freezes you in your place. Fear suffuses your mind, and you realize that death is at your heels. Go, go, go! You bolt on your 4 feet, a burst of adrenaline powering your tiny muscles as the creature behind you snaps and snarls at your fleeting tail. You leap into the burrow, and the monster claws and scratches at the opening behind you, its frilled head blocking the light. But it cannot get in after you. The creature stalks the perimeter and waits hours for you to emerge, but you never do. Eventually, it snarls and pads away. So, crap. So I have to make the wrong choice in each one of these. Alright. Okay. A world of senses explodes into your mind. You know instantly that you are in an abandoned cavity deep in the bloom. Wait, I just had this memory. Alright. The creature is vaguely feline, enormously tall to your new tiny form, and thickly muscled, its purple stripes and rigid frills along its flanks. Killing incisors, each almost as large as you, fill its cavernous mouth, and its powerful claws can smash you flat. It sees you and lunges. Let's stand our ground and get eaten. You turn and rear, filling yourself with air to make yourself seem larger. The beast lunges at you, and one of its paws smashes down on your spine, snapping it in an instant. The enormous mouth closes on you, and a mighty tooth pierces your side. The creature tears savagely at you, and then, apparently not liking the taste, spits you out. It snarls, baffled, and pads back into the dripping darkness of the bloom. That's depressing. Gasping, you drag your barely functional body towards the burrow, but your limbs go numb and stop moving. The world blurs around you. Aching with unbearable loneliness, you welcome the sweet release of death. Great. Consciousness calls you back to its arms, and you find yourself aching emotionally and physically from these experiences. Your muscles throb and pulse with the residue of the fight-or-flight response, and the cyst responds to your pain. Alright, we can do this. Your head is throbbing, aching. It feels like it's going to split wide open. You're trying to retreat from the battle for this region of the bloom, holding a tower of iron that will be against your scion foes, but they batter at it ceaselessly, and you can feel your defenses crumbling. If you strike back, you can save your allies, but you will open yourself to your enemies' minds. You saw what they did to Alito. Every pore in his body started leaking blood. His screams are still haunting you. Nope. Stand your ground. The moment your shields fall, they pounce on you, feeding you psychoses and traumas dredged up from your ancestral primitive past. They start to tear apart your concept of self, placing illusions of love lost and lives lived that are not your own. They whip you with empathy, and you can feel a backdoor attack on your psychomotor functions. The agony is exquisite. You use the pain and rage to lash out at the weakest mind, and you realize then that you are fighting a hive consciousness. You cannot defeat these creatures, united as they are. Your only hope is to defend yourself, or one of your squad mates. But only one of the 10 of you can survive the concerted attack of the hive. Let's keep striking back. Maybe I can distract them. You strike, and you strike again. You channel your fear into a devastating blow, aimed at the heart of the nest, but the energy vanishes. You think. Lines of control snake through your body, dominating you and painting new truths on your mind. Each silver-thin thread draws a universe of pain through your exposed nerves. As your mind slowly dies, your foes show you the bodies of your fallen comrades. Not one escaped. They died in agony, and so do you. The ache in your heart has become familiar, even as the sorrow and heartbreak seem new and fresh every time. Different facets of the same emotion, each refracted through a new experience. The muscle's fibers twitch again, loosening one final time, revealing a frail, angular creature trapped inside. It bursts out of the cyst, leaving a glittering object in its haste to escape. You're welcome. Yeah, you're... Now that the cyst has disgorged its prisoner, the husk looks hollow, deflated, and defeated. Something catches your eye. It's a piece of sharp metal that protrudes from just underneath a fold of decaying bloom flesh. You cannot begin to guess at its function, but it's small and easy to carry. You slip it into your pouch. Mesmeric handle. You found this inside a bloom cyst, yeah? It's made of azure steel and resembles the hilt of a small knife, but the blade is missing. The device is inert because it lacks power, but its potential energies are great, tapped and conducted through strange dimensions. It would require an appropriate power source to reactivate the missing blade. Oh, cool!
Making a note.
The creature within the cyst was an abacos, a being that feeds on transdimensional energies. Assuming that it was in the cyst for any length of time, it must have been surviving by draining energy from the object you just found. Yeah, a closer examination would tell you more. Yeah, I already looked at it. Okay. Neat! Now we need to find an energy source. Cool. Sunderman and Sunderman, bloom flesh and sundries. Tools lie scattered on the workbench, along with fragments of leathery bloom flesh, sorry. It's a tongue twister. This rack holds countless tools of the leatherworker's trade. Colored dyes. Ooh, extruded by tiny wiggling creatures that congregate near the bottom. Okay, and there's 2 ways out here. Do these have names yet? Slave block and the slump. Okay. So, Sunderman the Younger. This friendly-looking youth is dripping strips of cured bloom flesh into colored dye. He looks up as you approach, revealing startling yellow eyes. Hello, sir. Are you interested in our wares? They're handcrafted and one of a kind. Well, what kind of work are you doing? I'm Sunderman's apprentice. That means I do whatever he tells me, really. Mostly harvesting useful bloom flesh. It's always an adventure, flesh harvesting, though my elder tells me I'll be going away on a bigger adventure soon. Can't wait. So what kind of stuff do you sell here? You'll probably be interested in the specialty items and armors we craft from bloom flesh, but we also sell everyday stuff like clothes and building supplies. Everyone buys from us, even those murdens. Talk to my elder if you want to buy anything. It seems like you know the bloom pretty well. Are there any maws nearby? I know of one for sure in Kyurgeon Slump. Been there a really long time. I hear there's one in the old slave block too, but I don't go in there because of the murdens, so I can't be sure. So, is it dangerous to harvest the bloom flesh? Not really. People only fear the bloom when they don't understand it. He puffs up his chest. I've lived here all my life, and nothing's ever happened to me. Oh, but it will, youngster, chuckles the old merchant who stands beside the apprentice. It will. The younger man laughs uncomfortably. You keep saying that, but you won't say when. If I did, says the older man, you might try to avoid it. Okay. Let's talk to, old man here. Near a display of goods that all appear to be made of bloom flesh, either tanned, beaten, carved, or cured, stands an old man who looks fairly tanned, beaten, carved, and cured himself. He also has startling yellow eyes, just like his apprentice. "Hello," he exclaims, admiring my stock. "You won't find anything else like it, not even here in the bloom. All handcrafted and one of a kind." He's pumping for information quick. "I noticed that you and your apprentice look very much alike." Well spotted, well spotted," he smiles widely, a twinkle in his eye. "And why would you speculate that is, sir?" "He's probably your son?" "Ha! Wrong. We are, in fact, one and the same person." He leans in and grins. "I see you don't believe me, so let me explain. One day soon, my younger self will be walking along when the bloom will open a maw beneath him, and he'll tumble into another world years in the past. Or maybe the journey to the past will be when he tries to come back. Whatever the case, it'll take him many decades and worlds to travel back here." He smiles wistfully. "I envy him the experiences he'll have, but thank him for the memories." "Doesn't knowing what'll happen change the future?" He frowns, puzzled. "Why? I knew it was coming, but it hasn't changed my past." "Okay, that makes sense. So your time loop's consistent. Cool." "Oh, interesting. So, would you like to chat about the memories or experiences you had and will have?" He looks over at his younger self, who is assiduously not listening. He laughs a little and speaks softly. "My first journey was to a desert world, where the natives looked like humanoid spiders. Well, that's the best way I know to describe them. They spoke with their minds and a combination of colors that danced between their fingers. It was difficult to get them to understand me, but we managed to find a way. I'm lucky they didn't eat me. When I'd gained their trust, I worked with them as a guide and hunter. I'd flush their prey, and they'd snare it with great chemical lattices. But one was always looking at me like he wanted to get a taste of me, and one day he made a move. I ran and found the bloom's maw still open, but time bent, and I came back in the past. The one you want to watch for is a word I'm not even going to try for." "I'd like to hear more stories." "Well, when I got back to our world, I didn't know it was the past, right? But no one I knew was alive yet. I went home and met my parents at the age my young self is now. Realized I needed to light out and get my feet under me, because I've never been enough of an idiot to ignore good advice from my elder self." He and his younger self laugh at this. "I had my heart set on reaching the steadfast. When I came on her, she was..." "Wait, why'd you stop talking?" He laughs ruefully. "Because I remember how frustrated I was when the old man wouldn't tell me about the beautiful woman he met. But let me tell you this. She was tall and dark, with eyes that dropped away into eternity. Her voice was the sweetest music, and when she spoke, I had to concentrate to get her meaning, because otherwise I'd drift away in the song. Her form was a delight, and we shared a time that..." He breaks off, blushing. "It was the best time of my life." "So, what was the deal with the cyst on the edge of the platform that I'd already poked at?" He regards you with a squint. "Well, whoever was in there was probably pretty dangerous, and now it's out thanks to a certain someone who thought they knew better than the bloom." "Yeah, okay. So what do you have for sale?" "Bloomflesh armor. 7 armor, that's nice. At the start of each turn, a tentacle latches onto a nearby enemy, does 6 transdimensional damage to the target, heals 6 points of health on the wearer." That's so cool. Minus 15% on esoteric attacks, but still. Light melee weapon. On crits, it does mind control. Cool. Blood globe. 24 mental damage. This glass globe holds a vicious cocktail of pulsating pink and purple auras, muddied by folding layers of putrid decay. This foul brew was harvested from somewhere in the depths of the bloom. Tormented, haunting whispers of the bloom's digested victims still trickle from the object. If the globe was hurled, the sludge would splatter everywhere in a small radius. Any person struck by the sludge would experience the same mental torments as the hapless victims of the bloom, whose dissipating minds are still contained in the syrupy muck. Ugh. Oh, refined fleetfoot moss. Cool. Okay, good. That's interesting. Metabolism flesh blood. 1 speed edge. +1 damage per effort. Oh, this pod-like lump of bloom flesh has the shape and size of a small hemispherical bit of fruit. And that is where the similarities end, as the flesh blood is quivering and still very much alive. A mangle of teeth and tongue-like protrusions appear on one side whenever the lump is anywhere close to living flesh. When applied to bare skin, the flesh blood bites and grafts itself to the host, taking on the texture and appearance of the host's skin. Once attached, it vastly improves the metabolic processes of the host, increasing quick reaction speed. +1 damage per effort, that's pretty cool. Okay, we'll come back and we'll think on these for a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. The tongue twisters of this dialogue, seriously, wow. But this has been exciting and gruesome. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.